Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2017 International Symposium on Spatiotemporal Computing. This is the second international symposium, the first one held in 2015 at George Mason University. I'm Jason I'm the director of Harvard Center for Geographic Analysis, and I am also the co-director of the NSF IUCRC Spatiotemporal Innovation Center, which is hosting the symposium. I'm going to introduce a few introductory speakers here before we move on to our first keynote. I'm going to start out by introducing Professor Peter Bohl. He's the Vice Provost for Advances in Learning and also the Charles H. Carswell Professor of East Asian Languages and Civilizations. In his role as Vice Provost, he's responsible for Harvard X and the Harvard Initiative in Learning and Teaching and research that connects online and residential learning. Importantly for our purposes, he led Harvard's university-wide effort to establish support for geospatial analysis in teaching and research. In 2005, he was named the first director of the Center for Geographic Analysis. He also directs the China Historical Geographic Information Systems Project, a collaboration between Harvard and Fudan University in Shanghai to create a GIS for 2,000 years of Chinese history. So join me in welcoming Professor Peter Bohl.
Thank you, Jason. And in this case, I'm here really on behalf of Harvard University to welcome you all to this 2017 International Symposium on Spatial Temporal Computing, and express the university's thanks also particularly to Jason as Director of the Center for Geographic Analysis and Wendy Guan as Executive Director for arranging to host this symposium. Following on the very successful first symposium 2 years ago at George Mason at the center led by Yang Chaowei. And of course, this combination of Santa Barbara, Professor Keith Clark is here as well, and George Mason, and this center here at Harvard is something that we value very much. I'd like particularly to welcome our many colleagues from China, led by Dr. Li Pengde, Deputy Administrator of the National Administration of Surveying, Mapping, and GeoInformation, and Director General of the Institute for Remote Sensing and Digital Earth, Dr. Guo Huadong. And this is especially for people coming from China. Harvard was founded in the last years of the Ming Dynasty, in the Tianqi reign period, right? 1636, 10 years before China was conquered by the Manchus. And I'm pretty sure Harvard at that time did not know it was founded at the end of the Ming Dynasty, or even that there was a Ming Dynasty. But it's important to keep in mind that that was 150 years before the founding of the United States. That Harvard is older than the United States as a country, and I'm sometimes accused of thinking that Harvard is independent of the United States, as it should be. As a university, we are committed to the free flow of knowledge and information across national borders. Governments and their policies, both in the United States and in China, often restrict the flow of information and of people, but these policies come and go, and it's knowledge that remains with us. It's knowledge, after all, that endures. We exist as people along the two axes of space and time, of geography and history, but putting those two together has always been difficult, and developing a rigorous framework for spatial temporal analysis that can deal with the very large amounts of data that are available to us today is a great challenge as well. And that is a problem that this symposium and the past symposium seek to address, and I hope with great success. So on behalf of the university, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Our next introduction comes from Dr. Li Pengde. Dr. Li is the Deputy Director General of the National Administration of Surveying, Mapping, and GeoInformation, or NASG, of the People's Republic of China. NASG has been an active member of the NSF IUCRC Spatiotemporal Innovation Center since its inception. The NASG membership has funded several center projects, including this symposium, for which we are very grateful. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Li.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter Bo. It's really a very great pleasure for me to be in the very, very famous University of Harvard here. I was in the United States many times. It's the first time for me to visiting a famous university, especially because the topic of this symposium is very, very attracting. And I want to take this chance, first to say China, NSG, and the universities, Harvard, University, California of Santa Barbara, and also the George Mason University have a very long history for cooperations. Not only the student exchange, but also the scientific cooperations. As the world is becoming as a village, as small. So how to touch the any change of the village is our geoscience, our geoinformation people should consider. That's why big data, Internet of Things, all is becoming more and more essential for these coming times. Because the Internet make everyone try to use geoinformation every minute. We produce geoinformation every minute. Even we don't care, but we are creating with our mobile phones, all the type of things. How can we handle this type of very complex, time-based geoinformation? It become a very, very challenging topic, not only to the United States, but also to other parts of China and the world. And I want to say in China, we are also very keen to make this type of research work by the national program. Our central government, City Council, issued several enforcement for speed up the research and development and on cloud computing, big data, and artificial intelligence. That's just the new one issued last month. So we are also seeking the solutions, how to solve the handling, the storage, process, and visualization of complex data in the coming times. Honestly, in NSG, is the national government for geoinformation. Traditionally, it's serving the mapping. But now we are thinking geoinformation is more and more important. So we still keep the word serving and mapping, but the main content of our work is on geoinformation. We are very actively involved with international activities such as UNGGM, Global Geoinformation Management. This is a new mechanism for all the countries to share knowledge, to share data, to share talent, to try to create a global geospatial solutions. That's what we have done in the last 6 years. The United States is also very active in it. So currently there are 3 co-chairs. One is team trainer from U.S. Census Bureau. Another one is me. Another one just changed is the director of Dutch cadastre. So in NSG, we have different type of institute make research on big data and geoinformation. One is our National Institute of, we can say, Chinese Academy of Survey and Mapping. Second one is the China Mapping Satellite Application Center. We have our own satellite, ZY3. And the third one is the National Geomatic Center. It keeps all the geoinformation in it, especially the catalog. because most of geoinformation is distributed from national, provincial, municipal, and county level. So there are 4 levels, we have different type of data. There are also, we have several big national serving teams. In Xi'an, that's the largest one. It has staff about 3,000. And also in Chengdu, Harbin, and Hainan Island. That's the national team. Every province in China has its own administration of surveying, mapping, and geoinformation. We have just issued the new revision of Chinese law of survey mapping. We encouraging geo-industry, geoinformation sharing, and the location-based service coordinate systems, and also for international corporations. So that the new law will push the Chinese survey mapping geoinformation more international, more global. And in our national program, there are 2 of them are very important. I think I want to say here. One is the smart cities in China. We have 334 middle and large-sized cities. All of them have established the municipal geoinformation infrastructure. We call ISDE for the cities. Now we are moving them into smart framework. In fact, it's the spatial temporal framework for all the cities. And there are also more than 500 county-level cities established such facilities. We are keeping this smart city as a national cooperation between NSG, the Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Information, and also the Ministry of Science, Construction, Ministry of Construction and Housing. We 4 ministries are pushing this smart city forward. Another very important one is closely with big data is the geographic census. We have spent 4 years' time. We spent more than 50,000 people work for the last 3 years to collect data for all over China with a 1 meter resolution and 1.5 meter resolutions. We collect all the data beyond the traditional fundamental data. It means we have the data related with economy, social, and the environment. So we have the largest data sets for the national geospatial related information system, information catalogs. How to process this type of data to get a more reasonable for decision making, this type of result is a very challenging work. I think in this area we also can cooperate in the future. How to find the solutions, the best choice for different level of government to make use of the resources, to protect the environment, and make the people happy. Now we are moving this census into the new stage from this year. We call it dynamic monitoring. We will dynamically monitoring every inch of China landscape. This data also will be dynamic. We will use satellite image and the vehicle scanning on road, and also the people working on the field. So China will have this national, very complete data sets to reflect the changes of the cities, rivers, and the landscape. I think with this new dynamic monitoring work, we need a solution for spatiotemporal data processing. The 2 of them are very, very important. And also for other activities such as in industry, unmanned vehicles, it's challenging to every country. That we will need accurate data. It also produce accurate data, mass data. How we can handle all the type of data together, that's a real problem. So I think in the future, we have to handle 5 types of big data. First one is the fundamental geospatial information. we collect from the maps. We use the satellite and all the type of vector data. The second one is the semantic data. As the census we carried out, all the things related with geoinformation, it means social, economic data. That's the second type. The third type is the professional data. The data from the agriculture, forestry, irrigations, and environment protections. All the type of ministries, they have their own data, our own big data. So that becomes the third. The fourth one is the sensor-sensed data, with remote sensing, vehicle scanning, all the type of raw data is very, very important for our big data processing. The last one will be social communication data with our mobile phones, with our shared economy. Everyone produces data, but this type of data is very, very dynamic. How we can include this data together? So I think these 5 types of data will make the kernel of spatial temporal data basis. If we can handle this type of data, we'll have good resolution. Small meeting always solve big problem. So this type of meeting, I think, will be brainstorm. That's why we are here, try to learn, to know, also to interact with our expert. And at last, I hope next time this meeting can come to China, to Beijing, to Wuhan. We can discuss more. We can find the solution for the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Li. So finally, we'll end with an introduction from Dr. Chaowei Yang, professor in the Department of Geography and Geoinformation Sciences at George Mason University. His research focuses on utilizing spatiotemporal principles to optimize computing infrastructure to support science discoveries and engineering development. He's the director of the NSF IUCRC Spatiotemporal Innovation Center and the co-director of the Center for Intelligent Spatial Computing at George Mason University. So please, welcome Dr. Yang.
Vice Provost Peter Bo and Deputy Administrator Ni, and Professor Guo, and distinguished guests. Welcome to the second International Symposium on Spatiotemporal Computing. Many times when we go out to talk about spatiotemporal computing, people will ask, what do you really mean by spatiotemporal computing? I hope that we could have an open-minded for these 2.5 days to define this together. But here I have a few examples, just 2 examples, to show what do we really mean by that. This is 2 examples. The first one comes from a project that we have been doing in the past few years. Oh. Okay, we know that in the solar system there's a lot of there are a few planets. We understand them. One of them is very key to us. That's our home planet, the Earth. And also there's millions of smaller stones, and they travel in the solar system. And some of them someday may decide to come very close to the Earth system and cause a big problem for us. So this is our home planet. Someday a stone, not so big like we're seeing here, but they are approaching us. This may happen in the next few hundred years. Smaller ones will come more often. And when they come, it's really, if they're big enough, it's really a disaster for our Earth, for our home planet. So one of the challenge for us is to understand better about the spatiotemporal distribution of those stones. So that requires us to have a better thinking on the spatiotemporal side and also be able to provide sufficient computing software and tools to support that, to apply to this problem to help us solve this problem. So that's one example. It's very wide, probably out of the scope of our daily research and jobs. Another example I want to show here is one of the collaboration we're dealing with big data. This is an example from the NASA Center for Climate Simulations. They are supporting the next IPCC report, which they will host about 100 petabytes of data sets. As we see from these red dots, they are really the anomalies of climate or weather on the Earth system. So how to identify this in the next decades will help us understand the insurance indication, for example, for coastal lines, and also be better prepared for public health events. In order to do this, we are managing hundreds of petabytes of data sets. That requires a very good understanding of the spatial temporal distribution of the anomalies and the model simulations and the Earth observations, and also being able to link that to our social problems like public health, urban development, and many other dynamics. So those all requires us to understand better about the spatial temporal principles behind these phenomena, and being able to develop new software and tools to come up with new applications to address these different types of problems. So with those two quite open-minded examples, we want us to have a collective action together through these 2.5 days. We have many of us coming together from different backgrounds. Most of us are from GeoInformation, but we have some of us from urban, from civil engineering, even from physics, to work together and to take this as a walking symposium. So in fact, we have loads for each session. Please feel free to put in whatever you're thinking about. That will help us to define this spatial temporal computing and work together to co-define this. And with that, I want to thank you for coming to the second International Symposium on Spatial Temporal Computing. And we hope this event could be for you to come to introduce your wonderful work, and also for you to take back some ideas for your future research and development. And also, please don't forget to enjoy the beautiful Boston and Harvard. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Wendy Guan. I'm with the Center for Geographic Analysis at Harvard. I'm just taking a couple minutes to briefly introduce some logistics here. Number one is there are some corrections on the program, the printed program. Very sorry that we were not able to catch some of the errors in the program. First, page 13, in the middle of the page, there's a section C3. Right now it says health applications. It really should be transportation applications. So apologize for that error. And then also at the very back on page 31, the hotel shuttle schedule. Please note that the 3 departure times are actually 30 minutes before the printed time on there. This is pretty critical for those of you who are staying in the hotel. Tomorrow morning and the day after, in the morning, departure time is 8:30, not 9. We meant to have all the guests arriving here before 9 o'clock, all right? So the departure time is 30 minutes before what's printed on this program. But if you go to the online version, all these are being corrected. I think before after the morning program, before the lunch break, we're going to organize a photo taking session. So we will all gather quickly on the staircase coming down from the street level. We're in the basement, right? There's stairs coming down. So we'll quickly just stand along the stairs so that we can take a group photo right there. By then, afterwards, lunch will be served. I think that's the most important things that I want everybody to be aware of. Thank you.
It is our honor to introduce Professor Huadong Guo from the Institute of Remote Sensing and Digital Earth of Chinese Academy of Sciences to give our first keynote. And Professor Guo has been a long-time leader in the field of remote sensing and geoinformation. In fact, as I look back to my background, I was grow up, in fact, from the digital earth earlier. In 1999, I participated in the first international symposium on digital earth. And after that, I came abroad and spent 1 year in Calgary, and then I came to George Mason. But a lot of things I do is related to digital earth. And so I personally would like to thank Professor Guo. And from Professor Guo's working history, in fact, there's a lot of sharing things. That, for example, he led more than 20 national key projects on this, and he is a member of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and he's now leading a big project funded by the government to build a satellite spatial and spatiotemporal data to form a framework, and I believe he's going to introduce that. So without further ado, I will invite Professor Guo, please.
Thank you, Professor Yang. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really my great pleasure to be here. Just like Dr. Li said, it's a famous university in the world. It's really my honor to be here. Well, first of all, I really want to say congratulations on the opening of this the wonderful meeting. I really like the title of this conference, the Spatiotemporal Computing. It's really new for me, but I'm really interested about that. In your program book, the title of my presentation is, I want to say something about the DBAR Digital Barrier Road Program, based on the observation. But when I come here, I found that the big data is so important for this meeting. And also, like Chaowei said, the digital earth also, people want to know that. So the title, I just changed that, I just say something about the relation between the, bigger data and the digital earth. I found that a lot of people here say the bigger spatial data, but I prefer use the name of the big earth data. Why? Because when we say the earth means data means not only for remote sensing data, not only for GIS, not only for GPS, but also including geochemistry, geophysics, geology, and even mineral and ocean and etc. So I prefer use the big earth data. Where you can see the big data is really important. People say in industrial society, the big data, just like the industrial societies, the oil or gas. Really, quite often we have meeting within China, we said, what's big data? Big data really look like all big data is one of the national strategic resources. So that's why, last year, Chinese government already listed the big data to be one of the national strategies. Very, very important. So for that point of view, I want to say right now we're entering the Omicron, entering the big data era. How about the digital earth? Digital earth is already about 18 years old. So the digital earth is facing some challenge. When we just think about the development of the data, here you can say something every decade, the data practically double before the, second industrial revolution. And later, from the industrial age to the information age, data has been doubling every 3 years. Right now, the spatial temporal, computing the period. So data are generated without the spatial and temporal restrictions. So people said, what's data? Data deluge. You can see in our European country, our colleagues, they have the, SIR. So everybody knows that using the SIR, the big science facility, people, scientists found a lot of new discovery. And also you can see here we are US, a region of the Google, process every day just 20 pp the data. So we are geoscientists, so people say we are facing the global environmental change. So for the climate change data, it grows to nearly about 320, the 50 pp by the 2030. That means that every day 1 ZB duplicate in the world, at least I think. When we see the geographical distribution, you can see US here and the Western European country and China and India and other kind of the countries in the world. Right now you can see China just is the ratio about 13%, but people said just right now is the 2017, about 3 years later, and China's growth share will be 21%. So when we do some analysis, we see the big data publications. Here you can see the US here, China here, and Germany here. Why? Because people say the top the 5 countries, the publication, the big data. Here is the US, the China, ranked the second one. You can see which university do the say which companies like here. So I really, it's the first time to be here in this famous city and the university. In US, Harvard University really contribute a lot, and also the neighborhood MIT. How about China? China, China Academy of Sciences, and also the famous university like Tsinghua University. Tsinghua University like the top 2 university in China. Also some, Zhejiang University, very big university. And Germany, you can see the Max Planck Society, the famous national research organization. So here you can, several years ago, we did an analysis, the top 5 countries, the papers published, like this one. So people say humankind entering the age of the big data era. So from the 26, last year to 10 years later, the digital universe will grow by the factor of 10, from 16 ZB to 163 ZB. So develop so quickly. So it's a challenge, it's a good opportunity. How about the digital Earth? Chaowei just said in 1999, welcome the digital Earth coming here. So in the past 18 years, digital Earth developed so quickly. Already we achieve a lot of progress. Like digital Earth conference. Every year we have the conference. We have the symposium. We have a summit. Summit focus on some special topic like the environmental change, like the urban, and international symposium, usually a little more worded, like the title, like the towards the digital Earth, the digital Earth in action, digital Earth as a global commons, blah blah blah. That means in the past 18 years, digital Earth really developed so quickly and so widely worldwide. You can see here from our goals, initiative for this the concept of the digital Earth to 1999, the first symposium. Every year's the symposium summit. Also, we publish some international in the international society symposium have some digital Earth declaration. And also publish some papers say new generation the digital Earth until now. So digital Earth already achieved a lot of achievements, but we are facing the challenge. Now the big data is here. So in the big data era, what's the future of the digital Earth? So that means big data, big Earth data, and give the opportunity to the digital Earth. Why? we just mentioned about that, some kind of data. We have so many different kind of data. Internet, every day you can receive a lot. Society data, economic data. But here, just take some example, some observation data. So observation data here is GEOS, slide, show every day different countries satellite, in orbit. This one, the observation data, not only just remote sensing data, but also some navigation satellite data, also some geophysical, the data. China, I remember that just 53 years ago, remote sensing as a science and technology was born in the world. That means in 1962, remote sensing was born in Edinburgh of US. The first symposium of environmental remote sensing. So at the very early beginning, 10 years, China at that time were sleeping, no any action. But since the middle and the later 1970s, China began to develop the satellite. Right now, we have 4 series of the satellite. The first one can see the meteorological satellite. The second one is the resource satellite. Resource satellite, in the early age, we just incorporate with Brazil, develop some, bilateral collaboration satellite we call the CBOT, Chinese Brazil Earth Resource Satellite. Later, have some special, high resolution satellite, special, serve for the mapping and cartography. And also have the ocean satellite, also environment and disaster satellite. Disaster satellite because China developing the bigger challenge for natural disaster. Say some every springtime, North China has some drought disaster. Every summertime, like the flooding, disaster. So already we have form the 4 series of satellite. But later, several years ago, the government initiated a new program called the High Resolution Observation Satellite. So this satellite means originally just means the spatial, high spatial resolution. But later, also, invite some high spectral resolution sensor here, and later high, temporal resolution satellite here. So not only for the remote sensing satellite, but also the last one you can see, the Beidou is the navigation satellite. According to the plan, China will launch it into the space total 35 satellites by the end of the 2020. But now already about 20 satellites launching in the space. So here you can see observation satellite, not only remote sensing, but also the navigation satellite. Later on should launch into the space some geophysical satellite, like some kind of electromagnetic satellite, want to develop to monitor some kind of the earthquake. But I don't know if possible or not. But theoretically, we should do something, do some very fundamental research for that. Not only that means China launched so many kind of the observation satellite, but also we established some kind of the receiving stations. The purpose is for receive the international satellite. International satellite like we are end users for Landsat TM. We are the end user for the spot. We are end user the RADSat, etc. So, like in my Institute of Remote Sensing and Digital Earth of CAS, we have right now the 5 receiving stations, receiving the both for international and domestic satellite. Right now, can cover the whole China, but not only China, but also can cover for 70% of the Asian territories. Not only for Asian countries, but also last year in Sweden, we built a new satellite receiving station can cover the North Pole area. So here you can see, look like this is a high resolution satellite. This is we call the GF. GF is Chinese, means Gaofen. Gaofen means high resolution. High resolution satellite 2. It's 0.2 meter resolution. It's very useful right now in the urban planning and the other kind of the engineering study. And here you can see the Gaofen 3. Gaofen 3, the satellite is a specific satellite, either synthetic radar satellite. You can see that C-band is just one band. You can see another one, resolution from 1 meter to 500 meter. But the most important one here, you can see the 12 modes. What does that mean, 12 modes? The 12 modes, right now, we can say in the world is number 1. The largest number of the modes. According to your purpose of use, you can select the different kind of modes. But the most important, in my favor, is the fully polarimetric SAR data. Fully polarimetric SAR data, like we have the, single polarization, we have multiple polarization. Right now, we have the really, we have the polarimetric SAR data, so can provide us some more science, more information. Just about, just 38 years ago, I used some paper, and in that paper, I used this SAR-looking radar, the data very poor, but now the different. I mean, it's a lot of data, not only from visible infrared, but also from radar. Not only for the past, but in the future or now, you can see we have the national space infrastructure. According to that, this is 10 years, the plan, and we'll be launching into the space just the total 88 satellites. Among them, 40, about half of them is remote sensing satellite. Remote sensing satellite, you can see high-resolution optical constellation, not just satellite, the constellation, and the medium resolution optical constellation, and even SAR constellation. So right now, like Canada, our colleagues, they want to launch the RADI 3 is constellation. So not only for remote sensing satellite, but also for other kind of the satellite geophysical field as a satellite. So in the future, that means from now on to just 7 years later, we're launching into the space about the 40 satellites. But not only the 40 satellite constellations, but most important one, we'll launch some kind of scientific satellite. People say, what's really different between China and the US? So I know US a lot. NASA launched so many scientific satellites into the space. But China right now, operating satellites have a lot. But we really need some kind of really scientific satellite to do some research. That's for, government's plan, have a lot of satellites. Here, with the development of, the different regions from the economic develop so quickly, so different regions, different ministries in China now already launch into space or have the plan to launch into space the commercial remote sensing satellite. Right now, you can see the number is 248, not enough. Have some more. It's good or not? I don't know, but we should negotiate about that. Maybe the more better, maybe the less is better, but it depends on what kind of use you need. So we really need high technology to serve for the economic and social development. But right now, like the mayor, like the governor, they have their own power. If they want to launch that, like the businessman, that's their power. So hopefully in the future, can keep in the sustainable development for the Chinese satellite development. But here I showed this one, I just means, we said we're entering the big Earth data, but in this observation, field, already we have so many data. So just because we have so many data, when we said, what's the digital Earth data, we said big data have the 4V or 5V or the 6V properties. That means observation data is really It's a very typical kind of the, the big data, like the large data amount, like the multi-data type, like the data processing, real-time and fast updating, like here, just spatial and temporal computing, etc., etc. So just for that, right now, around the world, you can see, a lot of people do this, a lot of companies, a lot of countries do this, like US are the, Google Earth Engine, like our EU countries, the GRC, some kind of layer. Australia recently just have the new project. Here is called GeoScience Data Cube, but the former, the title is Digital Earth Australia. And NASA World and NOAA SOS employer, and France is some kind of center, and even Russian, they launched a lot of satellites. They have no digital Earth activity, but just from this year on, they began to build some kind of the digital Earth. So just think about that. We have that background. Now we say some big Earth data. What's the big data? What's the digital Earth? What's the relation between the big Earth data and the digital Earth? So personally, I really think they're kind of brother. You can say the bigger data is, means something like the new generation of the digital Earth. True or not? I don't know, but we can discuss. So because the bigger the data, you can see characteristics: high resolution, high dynamic band, multiband, high spectral, and spatial resolution, and massive characteristics. You can see the Earth position data, multi-source. You can see multi-temporal, just like the title of the conference, and high value. And when we say, the bigger the data have the different kind of characteristics. So characteristics divided into two parts. The first one, external characteristics: data constant, data value, data update rate, data acquisition approach, data analysis method, etc., etc. And also you can see internal characteristics of bigger data. At least we can mention like a non-repeatability, a higher uncertainty, and a higher dimensionality, and high computing complexity of data analysis. So big data, what we can do, we should do the data organization, we should do data analysis and mining, then information transfer, then have the knowledge discovery. So big data, biggest data, most important one, maybe have the two roles. The first one, innovating the research methodology. The second one, by using the big data, bigger data, have some kind of discovery. By using the bigger data, we can have the, the scientific, the Earth science discovery. So for that reason, several years ago, we, International Society of Digital Earth, we have the journal, official journal called the International Journal of Digital Earth. So in the very beginning of the year, I should write some kind of the editorial. So in the beginning of 2014, I wrote the editorial, means the digital Earth column, big Earth data. What relation? I want to mention about that. From kind of point of view, maybe the digital Earth means some bigger Earth data. So that's what my thinking. So that's why just in 1999, in the first International Symposium of Digital Earth, somebody asked me, Mr. Guo, what's the concept of digital Earth? I really don't know. But at that time, I said, if you ask me, my answer is just putting our Earth into our computer. True, correct or wrong, I don't know. But right now, when we think about that, we think it's okay. But from the science popularization point of view, it's okay. But now, if somebody asks me, well, what's the digital Earth? Maybe I said digital Earth, we can say it's the big Earth data. So really, we can say big Earth data, we can say it's a new key to open the Earth science door. I do hope in the future we can play this role. Already we have made some practice, like 4 years ago, at that time, UN have the World Climate Change, Climate Summit. So UN, at that time, they have some kind of the program called the Big Data Climate Change. So they select some candidates from the 46 countries, the different team, to compete for the kind of the prize. So our research team, we call the Auspices Big Data team for global change, get some prize, at least in one of the non-winners, because they release some news just called the UN Big Data Climate Change winners, show how big data can drive the climate change. So this kind of example means the big data can give some contribution to the climate change. And recently, CAS means the Chinese Chemical Sciences. We have some, the priority, the project. So for that, the CAS through the, the national, the authorities will give some, very important support. So we have the new project we call the Big Earth Data. The Big Earth Data, what we mean is first of all, you can see the first layer, the data collection. Not only for EU, but also other kind of the data. Then we establish some big data and account service platform. Then we select a different kind of the field to do the study, like the DBAR, Digital Silk Road, like a beautiful China. Beautiful China means, we should do a lot of work for our dream for the beautiful China. Like a 3-pole environment. 3-pole means, we have North Pole, we have South Pole, but don't forget that we have Tibet Plateau. People call that the 3rd pole. So plus, 3rd pole total, we have the 3 poles. So 3 poles is quite important from scientifically to do the climate change. If we do some study for 3 poles, we can get some different kind of result. Also for, offshore and deep sea, and also for biodiversity and ecosystem. So finally, we form the CAS Earth the system. But in the meantime, we collect some data from CAS project, from a national project. Then the output, you can see the first one, decision maker, support for the decision makers. The second one for scientific discovery. Also, we want to do some, innovation, technical innovation. My title in the program book is about the DBAR program. So DBAR, in my last part, I want to deliver some information about what's the DBAR program. Total name is the Digital Belt and Road. You can see it's the satellite view. When we see the satellite, we see the world, we see the Eurasian countries, just like this. In north, with the red line, is the Silk Road. In the south, is the green line, is the maritime, Silk Road. So that's why we call it one belt, one road. One belt, one road is a very nice plan, look like a dream, but face a lot of challenge. What kind of challenge? You can see environment change, climate change, warming, drought, flood around here, these cities. This is the hemisphere. And natural hazards. People say we have a lot of, the disaster, but don't forget that in this area, we have the 85%. The first 80% is the serious disaster, occur in this one, in this area. Another one, just to say the most, important disaster, including earthquake, including flooding, including drought. This is the 3 major disasters. Also, it's the 85%. So the 85% is quite important, facing the challenge for the establish some circle road. And also you can see the unbalanced economic and urban development. If you see the NOAA's or some NASA's the light, the satellites data, you can see Eastern Asian and Western European countries very bright, but between them very dark. So that means the economic development, very, very unbalanced. So it's another kind of a challenge. So for that reason, we should use some kind of the big data, using some observation data to do some study. So we initiate the program we call the Digital Brand and the Road. Last May, we initiated this. We get support from the 22 countries and international organization and international program. So we have our vision, scientific knowledge, develop some implement and effective mechanism, and identify and address the showstoppers, etc., etc. And you can see the objective. The first one, scientific contributions. The second one, facilitating platform. And the third one, stakeholders. But here you see the framework of our DBAR program. What's the core issue? Here it is, bigger the data platform. Because along this, the one Belt and Road countries, most of them is the developing country. These developing countries really need some data. This data should be, shared. So we need some data sharing platform. People work together. People share this data. This is the key. If we can do this successfully for this program, we should do the data sharing. If data sharing is failure, that means our, the DBAR program cannot be success. So for us, really pay attention to the biggest data sharing, the platform. You can see the different kind of facility, different kind of source the data. First of all, we use our receiving station to do some work, give some contribution. So preliminary, and firstly, we just give the open access data for the the middle and the low resolution data. Right now, over 10,000 end users already we have around the world, along the the Belt and Road countries. So DBAR is quite interesting. It's very useful. Why? Because not only serve for the Belt and Road, but the most important one, people know that the United Nations, have the Sustainable Development Goals. So this Sustainable Development Goals, we need a lot of technology. We need some kind of research. So the DBAR program is really can give some contribution to the UN SDG. Like agriculture and food security is one of our group. So who can support SDG 2, like water resources and water security, can support SDG 6, like urban development can support to SDG 11, etc., etc. So the core is also as big Earth data. So this is the program we call it's a hand-in-hand program. Why we should work together? DBAR is here. We should invite some countries along the Belt and Road. The organizations, we should invite some international programs. We should invite international organizations. Already we have invited a lot of people. Right now, I said last year is the 22. Right now we have the 26. So work together, let countries along the Belt and Road benefit from the DBAR. So I think for here, my colleagues, also we can work together because we do the same, have the same direction, do some spatial temporal, computing, do some analysis, the big data, big Earth data. So application was that. We can contribute for this a lot. Finally, this is the last slide, because we already have a very successful journal, we call the International Journal of Digital Earth, but that's just that for not enough. So we have a new plan. By the end of this year, we should, publish the new journal. The title is Big Earth Data. Big Earth Data, what's Big Earth Data? It's open access data. And this one, Big Earth Data, at the end of the year, will publish the first issue, and sponsored by ISDE, and supported by CAS, and published by Terran Francis and the Chinese Science Press. So you are welcome to be the reviewer. You are welcome to contribute some, the paper. If you are interested, you are invited to be the editorial board member. I do hope you can become one of our the community. Well, that's my talk. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, the time is really tight. Let's see if we have any question now, or we can move to the panel. So maybe we just move to the panel, because right after this we have more conversations.